Clara sat alone in her living room, the soft glow of a lamp illuminating the pages of an old music book that lay open before her. The familiar melodies echoed in her mind, transporting her back to a time when laughter and harmony filled the air, a time when she and her sister, Sophie, would lose themselves in the notes of their favorite songs. Each chord struck a chord within her, stirring memories of carefree days spent by the lake, where they would share their dreams and secrets beneath the sprawling branches of ancient trees. Yet now, the music felt like a distant echo, a reminder of the chasm that had formed between them, a divide that had grown deeper and darker over the years due to a single, painful misunderstanding. Clara's heart ached with the weight of unspoken words and unresolved feelings, the shadows of resentment looming large in her life. Before we dive further into Clara's journey, please take a moment to subscribe to our channel. Your support means everything to us and is the only way these heartfelt stories reach more people. It helps us continue our work, so please subscribe now. The wedding invitation had arrived unexpectedly, a burst of color and joy in her otherwise muted existence. Clara had hesitated, her thoughts a whirlwind of uncertainty and dread. For 30 years, she had chosen solitude over family, allowing anger and hurt to dictate her choices. But as the date approached, a flicker of hope ignited within her. Perhaps this was a chance to reconnect with the family she had distanced herself from, to step out of the shadows of regret and into the light of possibility. She could not shake the image of Sophie from her mind. How time had changed them both, yet the bond of sisterhood remained, albeit frayed. The day of the wedding dawned bright and clear, the air filled with excitement and laughter as family and friends gathered to celebrate. Clara dressed carefully, choosing a soft blue dress that mirrored the sky. But as she looked in the mirror, she felt a stranger staring back at her. The years had etched lines of sorrow on her face, the weight of her choices heavy on her shoulders. Still, she resolved to face the day with courage, to embrace the uncertainty of what lay ahead. As she arrived at the venue, Clara was swept up in the whirlwind of activity, the scent of fresh flowers, the sound of laughter, and the warmth of love surrounding her. She navigated through the crowd, exchanging pleasantries with relatives she hadn't seen in years, her heart racing with every smile and greeting. Yet, in the back of her mind, one thought persisted. Sophie. Would she be here? Would they cross paths? The mere idea sent a chill through her, a reminder of the years lost to bitterness. Just as she began to feel overwhelmed, Clara spotted her niece, radiant in her wedding gown, a vision of happiness. The sight filled Clara with a bittersweet joy, a reminder of the love that still existed within the family, despite the fractures. She joined the gathering, clapping and cheering, yet her thoughts were still consumed by the unresolved tension with her sister. As the ceremony unfolded, Clara felt a growing sense of anticipation, an electric energy that pulsed through her veins. The moment she had been dreading and longing for was drawing closer. After the vows were exchanged, the guests mingled, laughter ringing out like music in the air. Clara's heart raced as she scanned the crowd, her eyes finally landing on a familiar figure in the distance. There stood Sophie, her once vibrant hair now streaked with gray, and her face soft with the passage of time. Clara's breath caught in her throat as she took in the sight of her sister, who looked fragile, yet exuded a quiet strength that seemed to resonate from within. In that instant, Clara felt a surge of emotions: anger, sadness, but also a profound sense of longing for a connection that had been severed for far too long. As she stood frozen, contemplating her next move, Clara was struck by a realization. The years had changed them both. They were no longer the young women who had fought so fiercely over an inheritance that had cost them their relationship. Life had shaped them, carved new paths, and perhaps, just perhaps, it was time to let go of the past that had held them captive for far too long. With each beat of her heart, Clara felt the weight of her resentment begin to lift, replaced by a flicker of hope and the possibility of reconciliation. Summoning every ounce of courage, Clara stepped forward, weaving her way through the crowd. Each step felt monumental, a journey that spanned 3 decades of grief and silence. The closer she got to Sophie, the more her heart raced, a wild rhythm echoing the turmoil within. Would she be met with anger, indifference, or perhaps a glimmer of understanding? Clara approached cautiously, unsure of what words would spill from her lips or if they would even matter after all this time. As she reached her sister, Clara felt an overwhelming urge to speak, to bridge the chasm that had separated them for so long. But words eluded her, the enormity of the moment freezing her in place. Sophie turned, her eyes widening as she recognized Clara, a mix of surprise and apprehension flickering across her face. For a brief moment, time stood still, and in that silence, the weight of unspoken regrets hung heavily between them, binding them in a shared history of pain. Finally, it was Sophie who broke the silence, her voice soft and tremulous. "Clara," she began, her gaze filled with a vulnerability that Clara had not expected. The sincerity in her sister's eyes spoke volumes, and Clara felt her resolve strengthen. This was the moment she had been waiting for, a chance to confront the past and possibly rewrite their future together. With a deep breath, Clara stepped closer, her heart pounding in her chest. "Sophie, I've missed you," she managed to say, the words tumbling out like a long-buried truth finally set free. The admission felt like a release, a lifting of a burden that had weighed heavily on her soul for decades. In that instant, Clara realized that forgiveness was not just a gift for Sophie, but a gift she was giving herself, a chance to reclaim the joy and love that had once defined their relationship. As the sisters stood face to face, the years of silence began to dissolve, replaced by a tentative understanding that had been buried beneath layers of hurt. Clara could see the pain in Sophie's eyes, a reflection of her own, and in that shared moment, they both acknowledged the struggles they had endured, the choices they had made, and the love that still lingered somewhere beneath the surface. Sophie took a small step forward, her voice trembling as she spoke. "I've missed you too, Clara. I never wanted it to end like this." The sincerity in her tone was palpable, striking a chord within Clara that resonated with the ache of longing and regret. Clara felt tears prick at her eyes as she took in her sister's expression, a mixture of sorrow and hope mirrored in her own heart. I thought I could never forgive you for what happened," Clara admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "But standing here now, I realize how much time we've lost. I let anger dictate my life when all I ever wanted was to share it with you." Each word felt like a release, a cathartic acknowledgement of the hurt and the love that had intertwined over the years. Sophie's gaze softened, a flicker of understanding illuminating her face. "And I let pride get in the way. I thought I was protecting myself, but in the end, I only hurt us both." Her voice quivered with emotion, and Clara could see the weight of the past pressing heavily on her sister's shoulders. It was as if the years of silence had crystallized their pain into a shared burden, one that they were now ready to lift together. The laughter of wedding guests floated around them, but in that moment, Clara and Sophie existed in a world of their own, a fragile bubble of connection that had the power to heal. "We can't change the past," Clara said, her heart racing with the possibility of a new beginning. "But we can choose to move forward, together." Sophie nodded, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I like that, Clara. I really would." There was an unspoken promise in their exchange, an acknowledgement that while the road ahead would be filled with challenges, they were finally willing to face them side by side. The years of resentment began to fade, replaced by a tentative hope that perhaps, just perhaps, they could rediscover the bond that had once meant everything to them. As they stood there, Clara felt a warmth spreading through her chest, a lightness that had been absent for far too long. The fear that had gripped her for years began to dissolve, replaced by the realization that this moment marked a turning point in their relationship. "I want to know about your life, Sophie. Your children, everything," Clara said, her voice steadying as she spoke. "I want to be part of it again." Sophie smiled through her tears, a genuine smile that seemed to illuminate her face. "Oh, Clara, there's so much to share. I can't wait to introduce you to my grandchildren. They're wild and full of life, just like we used to be." The joy in Sophie's voice rang true, and Clara felt a sense of excitement bubbling within her, a sense of possibility that had been absent for decades. The wedding festivities continued around them, but Clara and Sophie were oblivious, existing in their own sphere of renewed connection. The laughter and music swirled around them, their past hurt gradually transforming into a tapestry of shared stories and memories waiting to be woven together again. As the first dance began, Clara felt a pull in her heart, a desire to embrace not just the present, but the future they could build together. Taking a deep breath, Clara reached for Sophie's hand. "Let's dance," she suggested, her voice filled with a newfound exuberance. "Let's celebrate this moment." Sophie's face lit up, and without hesitation, she took Clara's hand, intertwining their fingers as they made their way to the dance floor. As they danced, the years melted away, replaced by the rhythm of music and the laughter of family. Clara felt the weight of resentment lift with every step, replaced by a profound sense of joy. They moved together, the familiar melodies wrapping around them like a warm embrace. And for the first time in years, Clara felt truly alive. In the midst of the celebration, Clara glanced around at the faces of her family, smiling, laughing, embracing one another. A sense of gratitude washed over her, a recognition of all that she had missed by allowing anger to dictate her life. The journey back to her sister had not been easy, but it was a journey worth taking. The bond they shared, though frayed, was not irreparable. It had simply been waiting for the right moment to be rekindled. As the song came to an end, Clara and Sophie pulled away, breathless and smiling. "Thank you for this," Clara said, her voice filled with emotion. "For being here, for being you." Sophie's eyes shone with understanding, a silent acknowledgement of the journey they had undertaken together, a journey that had led them back to one another. If this story is touching your heart, make sure to comment from where you are hearing this amazing story. Clara's words echoed in her mind as she looked around, feeling a profound connection not just with Sophie, but with the family she had distanced herself from for so long. It was a reminder of the power of love and forgiveness, of the resilience of the human spirit, and the importance of embracing the moments that truly mattered. As they took a moment to catch their breath, Clara felt a newfound determination rising within her. She wanted to rebuild not just her relationship with Sophie, but also with the entire family. It was time to let go of the past and embrace the future, a future filled with laughter, love, and the sweet melodies that had once brought them together. "Let's make a pact," Clara said, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "Let's promise to meet regularly, to share our lives, and to never let misunderstandings come between us again." Sophie's face brightened, and she nodded enthusiastically. "Yes, I would love that. We have so much to catch up on." The enthusiasm in Sophie's voice reverberated through Clara's heart, a promise of the beautiful moments that lay ahead. They both knew that the road to healing would be filled with challenges, but as long as they walked it together, they could overcome anything. With that promise, Clara felt a profound sense of peace settle within her. The years of resentment had been heavy, but now, the weight was lifting, replaced by the warmth of connection and the joy of rediscovery. As the music swelled around them and the celebration continued, Clara knew that this was just the beginning of a new chapter in their lives, one filled with love, forgiveness, and the sweet echoes of a sisterhood reborn. As the night wore on, Clara and Sophie found themselves enveloped in the warmth of family, laughter, and the music that once defined their shared youth. The dance floor buzzed with energy, a kaleidoscope of colors and emotions swirling around them. Each moment felt like a treasure, a reminder of the countless memories they had lost and now had the chance to rebuild. "Look at them," Clara said, nodding towards the younger generations twirling and laughing, their joy infectious. "They remind me of us." Sophie laughed softly, the sound rich with nostalgia. "Yes, just a bit more coordinated, I must say." Their eyes twinkled with shared memories of awkward dance moves and secret giggles by the lake, where music had once been the language of their hearts. As the evening progressed, Clara felt a sense of refreshing clarity envelop her. Her earlier fears had faded into the background, replaced by a determination to embrace this newfound connection. I want to know everything about your life, Sophie. Your grandchildren, your passions, the little moments that light up your days. Sophie's face lit up, revealing a spark of excitement. Oh, Clara, you have no idea how much I'd love to share. They're so full of life. Just last week, little Emma tried to bake cookies on her own, flour everywhere. It was a mess, but the laughter was worth every bit of it. Clara chuckled, picturing the scene, and felt a warmth spreading through her. I can't wait to hear more stories about the family, about you. And I want to share my life too, all the little things that have kept me going these past years. With each exchange, the sisters began to weave a new tapestry of their lives, stitching together the years apart with threads of laughter and understanding. The music faded into the background as they leaned closer, their voices low and conspiratorial, recounting tales that had never been shared. Clara shared her passion for painting, how she had finally picked up the brush again after years of neglect, and Sophie recounted her love for gardening, the solace she found in nurturing her plants. Time slipped away unnoticed, and as the final song of the evening played, Clara felt a deep sense of contentment settle in her heart. She glanced around at the gathering, family members embracing, friends laughing, and love radiating from every corner. It was a tableau of joy that she had almost forgotten existed, and now, standing with Sophie, she was ready to reclaim her place within it. As the last notes faded, Clara felt a gentle tug on her arm. It was her niece, grinning from ear to ear. "Aunt Clara, you must join us for the bouquet toss. It's tradition." Sophie's eyes sparkled mischievously. "You can't miss this. It's a rite of passage." Clara laughed, a sound free of the weight it had carried for so long. "All right, let's do it." She exchanged a glance with Sophie, both of them bubbling with excitement. And together they made their way to the center of the dance floor, the energy of the crowd lifting them as they moved. As Clara stood among the other women, she felt a rush of exhilaration, the moment reminding her of simpler times when they would dream together by the lake. When the bouquet was tossed, Clara reached for it instinctively, her heart soaring as she caught it. The cheers of her family enveloped her, a sweet sound that filled her with warmth. "Looks like you're next," Sophie teased, her laughter mingling with the crowd's applause. Clara's heart raced, not just from the fun, but from the realization that she was ready for whatever came next, whether it was love, adventure, or simply more cherished moments with family. As the evening began to wind down, Clara and Sophie found a quieter corner, still buzzing from the celebration. "I'm so glad I came," Clara admitted, her voice soft yet firm. "This was everything I needed." Sophie nodded, her eyes glistening with emotion. "Me too. I never realized how much I missed you until tonight. It feels like a piece of my heart has come back." With the weight of the past finally lifted, they knew this was just the beginning. They exchanged promises to meet regularly, to share their lives and dreams, and to never let misunderstandings grow between them again. As the last guests began to leave, Clara and Sophie lingered, reluctant to part ways. They held each other's gaze, a silent agreement passing between them, a promise to nurture their rekindled bond and to fill the empty spaces of the past with laughter and love. "Let's plan a family gathering soon," Clara suggested, her heart swelling with hope. "We can invite everyone, and I'll even bring my paints. We can create something together, just like we used to." Sophie's face broke into a radiant smile, lighting up the dimming room. "I'd love that, and I'll make my famous lasagna. It's been far too long since we've had a family feast." As they stepped outside into the cool night air, the stars twinkled overhead, a beautiful reminder of the endless possibilities that lay ahead. Clara felt a sense of peace wash over her, a feeling of homecoming that she had longed for, but never fully grasped until now. Hand in hand, they walked towards their cars, the laughter of the wedding still echoing in their hearts. Clara knew that this night would mark a turning point in their lives, one that would lead to countless moments of joy and healing. Finally, as they reached their vehicles, Clara turned to Sophie, her heart full. "I love you, sis," she said, her voice steady and sincere. "I love you too, Clara. Always have," Sophie replied, a tear glistening in her eye, but this time it was a tear of happiness. And with that, the sisters embraced, a long hug that spoke of years of longing and the promise of a future filled with love, laughter, and the unbreakable bond of sisterhood. As they parted, both women felt lighter, as if the burdens of the past had finally been laid to rest, making space for a new chapter, one where they would no longer hold grudges, but instead hold each other close, ready to face whatever life had in store.